Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. I am your chemistry teacher. In this video, we are going to study chapter 4 Atomic Structure. Let's study the contribution of Rutherford in finding out the structure of atom. Rutherford had performed an experiment called the Rutherford's alpha rays scattering experiment, which led to some important conclusions about the structure of atom. Alpha particles are the particles which carry 2 units positive charge and have 4 units of mass. They resemble helium atom having 2 unit positive charge on it, which contains 2 protons and 2 neutrons. Rutherford took a very thin gold foil and bombarded it with fast moving alpha particles from a radioactive source. He took polonium as the radioactive source. He placed a zinc sulfide screen to detect the deflections suffered by the alpha particles. In this experiment, Rutherford observed that most of the alpha particles passed straight through the gold foil without undergoing any deflection. Some of the alpha particles were deflected at small angles from their path, and nearly 1 in 10,000 means a very few alpha particles were deflected at large angles or bounced back. So the three observations of this experiment are that most of the alpha particles could pass undeflected through the gold foil. Some alpha particles were deflected slightly from their path, and a very few alpha particles were deflected by large angles or bounced back from their original path. As the alpha particles were passing through gold foil, and gold foil consists of gold atoms, therefore alpha particles must be passing through gold atoms. Therefore, Rutherford concluded that there is a large empty space in gold atoms, due to which most of alpha particles could pass undeflected through the gold foil. अगर कहीं पे खाली जगह होगी तभी तो वहां पे कोई चीज पास कर सकती है, और बहुत सारे अल्फा पार्टिकल्स एटम्स के बीच में से पास कर रहे थे. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि एटम में बहुत सारी स्पेस क्या है, एम्प्टी है. Then secondly, there were some particles which underwent small deflections. So it means there must be some positively charged body placed in the atom, because जो अल्फा पार्टिकल्स हैं वो पॉजिटिवली चार्ज्ड हैं, और पॉजिटिव चार्ज को कौन डिफ्लेक्ट कर सकता है, कोई ना कोई पॉजिटिव चार्ज ही डिफ्लेक्ट करेगा. So it means the central part of the atom is positively charged, due to which a very few alpha particles suffered small deflections. Then the final point, that as a very few alpha particles retraced their path, it means that the central part, which is positively charged, is a very heavy and dense body. And this positively charged heavy and dense body present in the atom was named as nucleus. Therefore, we can say that nucleus is very small as compared to the size of the atom on the whole. Nucleus is very heavy and is positively charged, and nucleus is very dense, hard and rigid. And hence it was Rutherford who discovered nucleus. Keeping this experiment in view, Rutherford tried to tell about the structure of atom in his model of atom called Rutherford's model of atom. According to this model, an atom consists of a dense, heavy and positively charged central part called nucleus. This nucleus consists of neutrons and protons. The size of the nucleus is very small as compared to the size of atom. The electrons are present at very large distances from the nucleus, and there is a large vacant space between nucleus and electrons. The total positive charge on nucleus is equal to the total negative charge on all the electrons, so that the atom on the whole is electrically neutral. Then the electrons are revolving around the nucleus in circular paths, just like the planets are revolving around the sun in circular orbits. That's why these electrons are also called planetary electrons. And therefore, Rutherford's model of atoms is also called planetary model of atom. But this Rutherford's model of atom was rejected due to some drawbacks. This model could not explain the stability of an atom. Rutherford had suggested that negatively charged electrons revolve in circular orbits with great speed. A scientist, Maxwell, argued that according to radiation theory, charged particles moving with great speed in circular orbits emit energy in the form of radiations. And since electrons are also moving at high speed in circular orbits around the nucleus, they must release energy continuously in the form of radiations. And as a result of reduced energy, the electrons must come closer and closer to the nucleus and ultimately fall into the nucleus, taking a spiral path. As a result, the atom should collapse. But this does not actually happen and the atom is stable. So Rutherford was not able to provide a suitable explanation for this. That's why his model was rejected. Then a scientist, Niels Bohr, proposed a model of atom by explaining the limitation of Rutherford's model. He explained that even though the electrons are moving at high speed around the nucleus of atom, they do not lose energy. The electrons revolve around the nucleus in fixed orbits and each orbit has a different radius and definite amount of energy. Therefore, electrons in an atom are moving, but the energy of electrons remains stationary. Means the energy of electrons does not change in a fixed orbit. Let us study some main points of Bohr's model of an atom. Number one is that each atom consists of a dense, heavy, and positively charged nucleus containing protons and neutrons. This nucleus is present at the center of atom. The negatively charged electrons are revolving around the nucleus in fixed circular paths. These fixed circular paths are called orbits or energy levels or shells. There are equal number of electrons and protons in an atom. That is why an atom is electrically neutral. The energy shells are represented as K, L, M, N, O, and so on, or numbered as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. This numbering or naming of the orbits starts from the nucleus side. The energies of the shells go on increasing as the distance between the shells from nucleus increases. Therefore, K shell has least energy, L shell has more energy than K shell, M shell has still more energy, and so on. Each shell can hold a fixed number of electrons. The maximum number of electrons that can be present in any shell is 2n square, where n is the number of shell. For example, if we want to know the maximum number of electrons that can be present in first shell, then we will put n is equal to 1 in formula 2n square. And 2 multiplied by square of 1 is equal to 2. So it means that first shell can accommodate maximum 2 electrons. Similarly, for L shell, that is second shell, n is equal to 2. So 2 multiplied by square of 2 is equal to 8. Therefore, L shell can accommodate maximum 8 electrons. Like this, we can calculate the maximum number of electrons in any shell of the atom. There is no change in the energy of an electron so long as it revolves in a particular orbit. The energy of an electron changes as it changes the energy shell. An electron releases energy when it jumps from high energy shell to low energy shell. And an electron gains energy on jumping from lower energy shell to higher energy shell. For example, we know that M shell has higher energy than L shell. So if an electron jumps from M to L shell, then it releases energy. And if it jumps from L to M shell, then it gains energy. So now it is clear that an atom is made up of two main parts, that is nucleus and extranuclear part. The nucleus is the central and heavy part of the atom which contains neutrons and protons. As neutrons are neutral and protons are positively charged, so the overall charge on nucleus is positive charge. The extranuclear part consists of electrons which revolve around the nucleus in fixed circular paths called orbits or energy shells. Now next we are going to study about the atomic number and mass number of an element. Every atom of an element has a fixed number of protons in its nucleus. This fixed number of protons is referred to as its atomic number. As no two different elements can have same number of protons in the nucleus of atom, so no two different elements can have same atomic number. The atomic number is represented by an alphabet Z. Moreover, the number of electrons in an atom of element is also equal to its atomic number because an atom contains the same number of electrons and protons in it. For example, if the atomic number of an element is 12, then its atom contains 12 protons and 12 electrons. The total mass of protons and neutrons inside the nucleus is regarded as the atomic mass of an element. Therefore, atomic mass or mass number can be defined as the total number of protons and neutrons present in one atom of an element. For example, an atom of sodium element contains 11 protons and 12 neutrons. So, the mass number of sodium is 11 plus 12, which is equal to 23. The mass number of an atom is denoted by an alphabet A. Now let's see how mass number is related to atomic number. Mass number is equal to the number of protons plus number of neutrons. Since the number of protons in an atom is equal to the atomic number of the element, so the above relation can also be written as mass number equals atomic number plus the number of neutrons. The mass number and the atomic number can be indicated on the symbol of an element. The atomic number is written as subscript on the lower left side of the symbol, whereas the mass number is written as superscript on the upper left side of the symbol. For example, the atomic number of helium is 2 and its mass number is 4, so it can be represented as shown here. Also, the mass number of carbon is 12 and its atomic number is 6, so it is represented as shown here. And now we are going to study about Bohr-Bury scheme of electronic configuration. In an atom, electrons are not randomly placed around the nucleus. They are placed in fixed energy levels or energy shells as suggested by Bohr's atomic model. These shells are named as K, L, M, N and so on. The arrangement of electrons in these shells is known as electronic configuration. The filling of electrons in an atom is a stepwise approach. First, the electrons are arranged in K shell, then in L shell, M shell, N shell, and so on. Means the energy levels or energy shells are filled in order of increasing energies. In order to write down the electronic configuration, one should have knowledge about the number of electrons in one atom of the element and the maximum number of electrons that can be accommodated in different shells of the atom. The maximum number of electrons that can be accommodated in any energy level of the atom is given by a formula 2n square, where n is the number of that energy level or energy shell. For example, for first shell, the value of n is equal to 1, and according to the formula, 2 multiplied by square of 1 is equal to 2. So, the maximum number of electrons present in the first level is 2. According to Bohr's model of atom, the first energy level K can have maximum 2 electrons. The maximum number of electrons that can be accommodated in shell L is 2 multiplied by square of 2 equal to 8. Similarly, for M and N shells, maximum number of electrons that can be accommodated are 2 into square of 3 equal to 18 and 2 multiplied by square of 4 equal to 32 respectively. During the arrangement of electrons in the shells, the outermost shell of an atom cannot accommodate more than 8 electrons, even if it has the capacity to accommodate more electrons. Generally, the outermost shell of an atom can have maximum 8 electrons only, even if it has capacity to accommodate 18 or 32 electrons. This is due to the fact that having 8 electrons in the outermost shell makes an atom stable. There is an exception. If the outermost shell is the first shell or K shell, then it can hold only 2 electrons. For example, helium has only one shell in its atom and is stable. Electrons in an atom do not occupy the new shell unless all the inner shells are completely filled. Keeping all this in view, you can easily draw atomic structures of various elements. Let's know about some steps that you can follow to draw the atomic structures. Take example of nitrogen. Firstly, we should know about the number of protons, neutrons and electrons in an atom of the element. In nitrogen, there are 7 protons, 7 neutrons and 7 electrons. Then we have to write down electronic configuration of the element. Nitrogen has 2 electrons in K shell and 5 electrons in L shell. So its electronic configuration is 2, 5. Step 3 is to write down the number and name of shells. For example, in nitrogen, there are 2 shells which are named as K and L shell. Then we have to draw the nucleus and write down the number of protons and neutrons in it. For nitrogen, we will draw the nucleus and write down 7 protons and 7 neutrons in it. Then the next step is to draw the calculated shells and name them. For nitrogen, we had calculated that there are 2 shells in nitrogen, namely K and L. So here we'll draw 2 shells around the nucleus and name them as K and L. Then the last step is to put the dots for the number of electrons. From the electronic configuration, we know that in K shell there are 2 electrons and in L shell there are 5 electrons in nitrogen. So here in the first shell we'll put 2 dots and in the second shell we'll put 5 dots for nitrogen. Like this we can draw the atomic structure of nitrogen. Now let's discuss one more atomic structure by taking the example of calcium. Firstly, we'll write down the number of protons, neutrons and electrons. So in calcium, there are 20 protons, 20 neutrons and 20 electrons. The atomic number of calcium is 20. Therefore, its electronic configuration is 2, 8, 8, 2. Then there are 4 shells in calcium which are named as K, L, M and N. Then we have to draw the nucleus and write down the number of protons and neutrons in it. So we'll draw the nucleus and write down number of protons equal to 20 and number of neutrons equal to 20 in the nucleus. Then we have to draw the calculated shells and name them. And we had calculated that there are 4 shells in calcium. So we'll draw 4 shells around the nucleus and name them as K, L, M and N. Then from the electronic configuration, we can put the dots for the number of electrons. Calcium's electronic configuration is 2, 8, 8, 2. So we'll put 2 dots in first shell, 8 dots in second shell, 8 in third shell and 2 dots in the fourth shell. Like this we can draw the atomic structure of calcium, and by following these steps we can draw the atomic structure of any element. These are the atomic structures of elements with atomic number 1 to 20. Now we know that in every atom a fixed number of electrons are present in each shell. The electrons present in the outermost shell of an atom are called valence electrons. For example, in magnesium, the outermost shell is M shell and there are 2 electrons present in it. Here, magnesium has 2 valence electrons. The remaining electrons are known as core electrons. In magnesium, 2 plus 8 means total 10 electrons present in K and L shells collectively are known as core electrons. We know that stable atoms have 8 electrons in their outermost shell. Such elements having 8 electrons in outermost shell are called noble gases or inert gases. They do not react or combine with any element. In other words, we can say that their combining capacity is 0. For example, helium and neon. Helium has 2 electrons in its outermost shell and all other inert gas elements have 8 electrons. The combining capacity of the atom to form molecules either with the same or different elements is called as valency. Valency of an element is expressed in terms of number of electrons which an atom of the element loses, gains, or contributes for sharing in order to acquire the stable nearest noble gas configuration. For example, elements like hydrogen, lithium, and sodium atoms contain one electron in the outermost shell. Therefore, they can lose one electron to become stable, so their valency is 1. And one atom of chlorine has 7 electrons in the outermost shell. So it is easier for chlorine to gain 1 electron instead of losing 7 electrons to acquire the nearest noble gas configuration. Its valency is 1 because it gains 1 electron to become stable. There is one more method to find out the valency of an atom. If an atom contains less than 4 electrons in its outermost shell, the valency of atom is equal to the number of valence electrons present in the atom. For example, aluminium has 3 electrons in its outermost shell. So the valency of aluminium is 3. On the other hand, if the outermost shell has more than 4 electrons, the valency is 8 minus the number of valence electrons. For example, chlorine atom has 7 electrons in the outermost shell, so its valency is determined by subtracting 7 from 8, which gives the valency of 1 for chlorine. So chlorine's valency comes out to be 1 like this. We are going to study about isotopes and isobars. Firstly, we are going to know about isotopes. Isotopes are defined as the atoms of an element having same atomic number but different mass number. For example, hydrogen has 3 isotopes. These 3 isotopes are protium, deuterium, and tritium. Protium has mass number 1. Deuterium, which is also known as heavy hydrogen, has mass number 2, and tritium has mass number 3. But these 3 isotopes have same atomic number, that is 1. The mass number of isotopes is different because they contain different number of neutrons in them. As the mass number is the sum of the number of protons and neutrons in an atom, so if there will be any difference in the number of neutrons, then mass number will also be different. You may see here that all the 3 isotopes of hydrogen are having same number of protons and number of electrons. The only thing which is different in them is the number of neutrons. We can find out the number of neutrons by subtracting atomic number from mass number. In protium, there is no neutron, in deuterium, there is 1 neutron, and in tritium, there are 2 neutrons. Note here that hydrogen is the only element which has no neutron in its nucleus. Carbon 12, carbon 13, and carbon 14 are the 3 isotopes of carbon. As carbon has atomic number 6, so the number of protons and the number of electrons in each carbon isotope is 6. And in carbon 12, the number of neutrons is 6. In carbon 13, the number of neutrons is 7. And in carbon 14, the number of neutrons is 8. Chlorine has 2 isotopes. These are chlorine 35 and chlorine 37. In both these isotopes, the number of protons and the number of electrons is 17 because chlorine has atomic number equal to 17. And the number of neutrons in chlorine 35 is 18 and the number of neutrons in chlorine 37 is 20. Now let's have a look on the properties of isotopes. The chemical properties of all the isotopes are same. This is because isotopes have same atomic number, thus having same electronic configuration and same number of valence electrons in them. Due to the same number of valence electrons, their combining capacity is also same, due to which they have similar chemical properties. Means different isotopes of same element can lose, gain, or share same number of electrons with a particular element to form a similar type of compound. So that's why their chemical properties are similar. The isotopes have different physical properties which are dependent on mass. For example, weight, density, etc. This is because the mass number of isotopes is different. And if the mass number is different, the properties related to mass will also be different. The isotopes occupy the same position in periodic table because isotopes have same atomic number and the elements are arranged in periodic table in order of increasing atomic number. Then you must have seen that the atomic mass of some elements like chlorine, iodine is written in fractions. Generally, we find out the mass number by adding the number of neutrons and protons present in an atom. But the number of neutrons and protons are always present in whole number. So why the mass number of some elements is written in fractions? The reason for it is also related to the occurrence of isotopes. The atomic mass of elements with two or more isotopes is equal to the average of mass of various isotopes. Or we can also say that it is the mean value of mass numbers of different isotopes and in the ratio they are present. For example, the atomic mass of chlorine is 35.5. The two isotopes of chlorine are chlorine 35 and chlorine 37, which are present in the ratio 3:1. So the atomic mass of chlorine is calculated as 3 multiplied by 35 plus 1 multiplied by 37 divided by 3 plus 1, which is equal to 35.5. So that's why we write the atomic mass of chlorine equal to 35.5 atomic mass unit. These isotopes are also very useful for us in many ways. For example, some isotopes which are radioactive in nature are used for treatment of cancer and many other diseases. Carbon 14 isotope is used for determining the age of fossil fuels, and the isotopes of hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen and carbon are used for studying the mechanism of various organic reactions. In some cases, it is also possible that the atoms of different elements having different atomic numbers may have the same mass number. Such atoms are called as isobars. So we can define isobars as the atoms of different elements with the same mass number but different atomic numbers. For example, argon, potassium and calcium. Argon has atomic number 18, potassium has atomic number 19 and calcium has atomic number 20. Means three of these are having different atomic numbers. But the mass number of these three elements is same, which is equal to 40. So these three are called as isobars.